I hope you're all buckled in because one of the most shocking moments of my poker career happens today in this video. You won't believe it, but I was angled in a $13,000 pot here at Champions Club in Houston, Texas, and Phil Hellmuth has a front row seat to witness it. But before we get there, you guys need to know what happened first. The very first hand of the night, I get after it with the $100 straddle. None other than Phil Hellmuth decides to raise it up to $200, and I defend my straddle, putting in the call with, you can say, a questionable holding. When the flop comes queen, queen, 5, I check it over to Phil, who checks behind, and the turn comes the 4 of diamonds. No point in me leading out here. I'm either way ahead or way behind. I decide to check once again, and now Hellmuth bets out for $200. Of course, I'm going nowhere. I have 2 pair. Find the easy call, and the river comes the 7 of diamonds. The only real interesting part of the hand happens here where I check it over to Phil. He bets kind of large for 600, and I'm in a tough spot, but I'm not going to miss an opportunity to call Phil Hellmuth's bluff if he is bluffing, which he's not. I put in the call and he turns over none other than pocket aces. You guys are going to want to see Phil's VPIP at the end of the session. I tried to play as many hands as I could with the legend, but let's just say unless he had pocket aces, it was pretty hard for him to get involved. In hand number 21, there's a raise to 200 by Tim. I decided to call with the ducks. I'm going duck hunting here, trying to flop a set. CJ calls as well. However, CJ has the exact same hand as myself, so of course, no deuce is gonna come. No setup decks here at Champions Casino, and we end up folding to a C-bet from Tim. A few hands later, I find myself in the cutoff with King Jack offsuit. Of course, I'm coming in for a little 3x here to $300. We're gonna get a few customers here and flop ourselves top pair on a Jack 3 deuce board. When the action checks to me, multi-way, I usually start with a check. However, I'm trying to get value here from some straight draws, and I want to protect my hand as well. Target some of those Jack X holdings that my opponents can have. I fire out for $500, and we're only going to get called by Randy. The turn now comes the 6 of clubs, and Randy starts with a check once again. I have an option here between betting and checking. I decide to check behind here and allow Randy to bluff on rivers. Also, I don't think he's going to call 3 streets here with a worse hand, so checking allows me to get one nice hefty bet in on the river and allow him to bluff occasionally as well. When the river comes the queen of hearts, Randy fires out for $1,200. It's not great for me because now I have second pair instead of top pair, but there's a lot of bluffs he can have, so I decided to put in the call. He turns over ace 4 offsuit, and this nice sized pot is coming over my way. This next hand gets a little spicy. Phil Hellmuth's son decides to raise it up from the hijack to $300. I'm in the small blind, and usually you want to go for a 4x sizing. I make it $1,200 to go. Randy puts in the cold call, and Phil Hellmuth III rips it all in for $26.75. At this point, I know I'm behind him. However, when Randy just calls, we're either flipping versus a hand like jacks, 10s, 9s, or I'm way ahead of just some random hands that Randy wants to show up here with. So I decide for the stream, let's have some fun. If I can't take down Phil because he only is playing aces up until this point, maybe I can take out his son, and that'd be pretty cool for the vlog. I put in the call, and luckily Randy doesn't rip his $13,000 stack in the middle. Instead, he just calls, and we are going 3 ways to a flop with Phil Hellmuth III already all in. Flop comes 9 deuce deuce. No point in either of us betting. The turn now comes the 8 of diamonds. Some more checking happens. We end up checking it all the way down, and Randy is gonna take this one down with pocket 6s. Yeah, Randy shows up with pocket 6s in this spot. A little bit light, yes, but we're playing a super fun live stream, and if I'm calling when I think I'm behind with king queen, don't tell Randy to fold his pocket 6s. All right, I put the $100 straddle out there, and CJ puts out the 200 to my left. Got a few callers over to myself. I complete, CJ checks, and I flop myself second pair. The action checks all the way over to 3 coin, who bets out very small for $150. That clears a few opponents, but I'm going nowhere with my second pair, and don't tell CJ to fold either. He calls, and the turn comes the 8 of spades. Some more checking ensues on the turn, and this time 3 coin checks behind, giving me gin on the river. It's not the 4, it comes the 6 of hearts. We now have 2 pair. The question is, do I make this look like a missed club draw and lead out, or do I check and go for a check raise, or would just call in case someone overbets the pot. I think against these two opponents, I want to get the value myself, and I fire out large here for $1,400. I overbet the pot. There was only $1,300 in the middle. Would I ever do this with a hand like ace-5 of clubs, ace-10 of clubs, or maybe just a 5 or a 7 in my hand that blocks some of the straights? Well, in theory, I should. Am I doing this against CJ and 3-coin knowing that they call down pretty light? Probably not. So this $1,400 bet is usually strength, but CJ eventually puts in the call. Randy folds his 3-deuce suited, and I'm pretty surprised to see now that CJ looked me up light with pocket 3s, the crabs. But I'm not complaining when I turn over my 2 pair. This $4,100 pot is coming over my way. Let's go. All right, here's the hand I was teasing in the intro. It starts off with some crucial information. Blez puts the 200 straddle out there. I put the 400 because Curtis says if I do, he'll put the 800. So a massive hand brewing here already. 200, 400, 800 here in Houston, Texas. And surprisingly, no one wants to put any more money in the middle. It folds around to me. They want me and Curtis to battle it out.
Looked at yours?
I have looked at mine.
Want to just go all in, just blind it out?
Oh, I looked at it, so that it's not blind.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm talking about just, I don't care though. You can have aces.
Instead of going all in blind, I propose a second option where we just put in a few grand and run it out. But he doesn't want to do that, so I confirm with him once again that he hasn't looked at his cards, and I have some evil intentions because I want to do something fun for the stream. I occasionally will do something crazy, and it looks like right now is the time to do it. So I confirm with him once again he hasn't looked at his cards, but you guys can clearly see now that he does look at his cards while I'm deciding what to do. Now don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with you looking at your cards pre-flop. In fact, I highly recommend everyone doing it. But if you're playing for tons of money and you're telling people that you haven't looked at your cards just to get them to put it in blind and you can snap them off with a good hand and fold all of your trash, well, I think there's something seriously wrong with that. But in the moment, I know none of this, so of course, I'm gonna do something fun for the vlog, for the viewers, and just try to entertain like I often do. I shove all in on Curtis Meeks. It's an effective $6,200 bet, and of course he snaps me off with ace king offsuit and tells the table once again that he hasn't looked at his cards.
You didn't look, king. You didn't look?
I didn't look.
I turn over the 9-6 offsuit, which surprises everyone because I've clearly looked, and Curtis even makes a joke to Tim. Whose hand do you think is whose? Because everyone, of course, is going to say that ace king is mine. So Curtis is trying to continue the story that he didn't look at ace king, and I'm just having fun here in this nearly $13,000 pot. I'm trying to keep the vibes high. Inside, I'm like, holy crap, I'm smoked. I'm losing this about 64% of the time, but 3 times out of 10, we are gonna take this down, and the flop is a little bit of help. 7, 8, 3 with 2 spades.
8, 7, 3, a spicy flop.
So good for poker.
I think.
The equities now are pretty much even, 47 to 53, and now it skyrockets up on the 6 of clubs turn. Look at this, karma is coming right back around. I try to use my 1 time in this spot.
You did it walking
One time. No, you said I'm tight. I gotta put it in.
See if the poker gods believe in karma. 1 time, all of that stuff. In the river card comes the 8 of clubs. Let's go. This 12.8K pot is coming over to myself. As the chips are getting pushed over my way, the announcers, Brent and Jeff, are a little confused as to what's happening. The chat is starting to fill them in, and some people are noticing exactly what I have noticed now.
Okay, now Jeff, you're reviewing the tape. Have you gotten to the bottom of what you think happened? Did either one of them look? Did one of them look?
From what I've gathered, Wolfgang looked. While the action is on Wolfgang, he's telling Wolfgang he like hasn't looked at his cards. During that part of it, I definitely see Meeks look at his cards. Definitely.
So you think Meeks actually did look and then suggested he hadn't looked? Possibly an angle gone wrong?
Well, moving on from that, I'm just super stoked I won the pot. You can't imagine how tilted I'd be now, knowing everything that I do if I would have lost that pot, but it's a good thing that I scooped it in. We're now gonna go into a few fun hands played by Cantu. Let's just say that progressively through this vlog, he gets more and more on tilt. He gets it all in here with his neighbor, Phil Hellmuth, pocket 4s versus king 10, and Phil ends up sucking out and hitting a king on the river. Cantu, Hellmuth, and 3-coin get in a 3-bet, 4-bet, 5-bet pissing competition here, and it ends up just being Cantu and 3-coin flipping for their stacks. Quite literally a flip, ace-queen versus pocket nines. Randy walks away from the table not before hitting an ace of clubs on the river.
No!
Come on.
On the river for 3-coin.
Cantu in back-to-back hands is getting stacked. And then, as any degenerate does, he loosens up when he's on tilt, trying his hardest to win his money back by playing any 2 cards. Jay White shoves it in with ace-3 of hearts, and Cantu snaps him off with king-4 offsuit and is in pretty rough shape on the flop. He never improves, and Jay White takes down a $7,500 pot, and then Cantu wants to donate some money to Blez, who makes 2-pair on the river, and Cantu somehow convinces himself that his king-high is good. That sets up nicely for myself to try and get some chips off of him. I'm in the +2 and raise it up to $150 with ace-9 offsuit. Cantu's tilt meter is all the way full at this point. He's on the dealer button with king-5 offsuit and puts in the call. Jay White calls as well. We go 3 ways to the flop, which comes 9-5-4 with 2 spades. I have top pair, top kicker. In between 2 opponents, I usually start with a check, no different here, and Cantu takes the bait and fires out for $300. Jay White calls with his ace high. I call with my top pair, and the turn now comes the 3 of hearts. I decide to check it over to Cantu once again, who continues blasting, this time to the tune of $1,200. When Jay White folds, a pretty easy call is incoming from me, and now this pot has ballooned up to $3,800, and the river comes the deuce of spades. At this point, I'm pretty confident I have the best hand. Sure, he could have a 6, but more often than not, he's going to have some 2 pairs and sets. So I don't want to risk it getting checked behind. Instead, I think I need to lead out into Cantu here and have him tilt call with like a 2-pair or set type of hand. He doesn't have any of that. He just has a pair of 5s and ends up folding his hand.
That's good the whole way.
Not good.
But you know he's super tilted because he makes the comment that he was ahead the entire way, even though we know he wasn't. So it's nice to know that I got a little share of Cantu's punts. Now, hand number 79, I'm in the hijack with queen 10 of diamonds. There's a raise from $10 to $300, Blez calls, I call, CJ calls, 3-coin calls, and Cantu looks down at ace-jack offsuit and decides to rip it all in from the big blind. Action folds around to me, and I took some of Cantu's money, so I think it's only fair that I give him a chance to win it back. Now, I don't really think he has that strong of a hand like ace-jack. Maybe my queen high will be good here because he's on super tilt. Maybe he has a hand like pocket 7s, pocket 8s, and we're flipping. But either way, I'm going to put in the 2400, and if someone else calls, who cares? We have a super playable hand, some straight draws, diamond draws, 2-paired ideas, all of that good stuff. And who else but Curtis Meeks puts in the call as well. We're going 3 ways to the flop. Cantu is all in and he leaves the table because, of course, his tilt meter is completely full. It's overflowing, and now I'm playing heads up with Curtis. I flop myself top pair in a queen 6 deuce with 2 hearts board. I could either check here or I could start betting into the dry side pot. And in case Curtis has like a hand like 6-5, 6-7, or a heart draw, I think he'll call a $2,100 bet. But as you can see, he has ace-7 of spades, doesn't make the float, and now we are heads up with Cantu. Except the funny part is that my opponent is nowhere to be found. He's left the table, he's so on tilt that he just wants to come back and see either no chips in front of him or that he doubled up. Phil Hellmuth turns over his hand, I show the queen, and we run the board out. It's to no avail to Cantu, but luckily for me, I'm taking out a $9,400 pot, and I tried to give him a chance to win his money back. I got it in bad, but I sucked out and won another $6,000 in that pot.
This f***ing Wolfgang kid, he f***ing like jams in 7,000 or 6,000 with a 6 and a 9 and beats the ace king. I mean, it's just like, what is going on here? Then, Cantu is like, obviously a little tilted, but has to have it for his last 2,700. This Wolfgang kid goes with a queen and a f***ing 10, 2,700. Oh, I guess I'll call.
Honey, he called me with queen 10! Northern Europe!
Phil just with a call.
Queen 10.
Yeah, Levy with a queen 10 and the win.
Called a race with a... He called a race with queen 10, honey. He called a race with queen 10. I promised her, watch, he called a race with a queen and a 10.
A queen and a 10.
How do these players even last this long?
Don't know.
I mean, it's just so sick.
This next spot is super interesting. The $100 straddles on and Tim finds the call. I raise it up to $500 and Jay White and Tim both find the call, and we flop ourselves top pair on an ace-8-4 board with 3 diamonds. Action's over to me. I like a small bet here of around 25%. I'm still gonna have all of the good aces and some of the sets. However, it's pretty even as to who has more of the flushes, so I don't need to go super large here. If I get raised and put in a tough spot, well, we can evaluate it then. 425 is the price of poker. Jay White finds the call, and now Tim check raises to 1600. Now, what kind of hands could Tim have in this spot? Well, he could have, of course, a set of 8s, a set of 4s. He's never gonna have aces. He could have ace-8, ace-4. He's never gonna have 8-4. Of course, he could have any of the flushes. He'd want to raise here with all of his baby flushes because any diamond on the turn would certainly be no good for him. I have all the ace of diamonds and king of diamonds in my hand. And when I bet into 2 opponents here, I don't necessarily have to have an ace. I could have like pocket queens with the queen of diamonds. So he could put pressure on those type of hands. Really like his raise in this spot, but it puts me in a weird situation. Usually when opponents raise on the flop, they don't slow down on the turn or river. So it's not end all be all, but I'm pretty much, if I'm calling here, I also have to be prepared to call on blank turns and rivers. In this spot, I just didn't want to do that. I thought it was more likely that Tim, who hasn't played many hands tonight, decided to raise on this flop with a hand that I had beat. So I make a pretty interesting fold here and fold ace-king offsuit. You guys can let me know down in the comments now before you see Tim's hand if this is a good fold or a bad fold. But after I fold and Jay White folds, we now expose that Tim had ace-10 offsuit, went for the check raise on the flop, gave me no credit for having ace-jack through ace-king without a diamond, and he's going to take down hand number 80. But I think more often than not, he's not going to have just one pair. I think he's going to have 2 pairs, sets and flushes. So short-term bad play, long-term maybe a good one. Let me know down below. All right, a few more hands to go, but they're pretty interesting. I raised the hijack up here to $300. Randy puts in the call. Phil Hellmuth III calls, and we're gonna pick up Jay White as well. We're going 4 ways to the flop here in a pretty nice pot, which comes 10, 9, 6 rainbow. Flopping top pair is pretty nice. I fire out for $550. 3 coin now raises me to $1,400. He wants to play a larger pot in position, and I really can't blame him. He probably has a decent hand at this point, but I'm definitely not folding top pair. I put in the additional $850, and now we see gin on the turn, which comes the 10 of spades. 3 coin is definitely an opponent that is capable of just calling pre-flop with a hand like jacks, queens, kings, and aces. I'm really hoping that he has that, hoping that he doesn't have a hand like pocket 9s, pocket 6s, 10-9, 10-6. So I check it over to him on the turn, and he checks behind. When the river comes, the jack of hearts is 4,100 in the middle, and of course I need to get a little bit more value. I fire out for $2,100, and he snap calls me with ace jack, so he got unlucky by hitting that river. He thought that that was a good card for him, but instead it cost him another $2,100. You can already see that there was a bank sticker underneath his hat. Well, we might have to add another one to that because this $8,300 pot is coming over my way. Remember when Phil Hellmuth was nagging on me for shoving it all in with 9-6 offsuit and winning against Curtis earlier? Well, why is he doing it himself then if he doesn't like that hand? He rips it all in here for $2,350 with 9-6 off from the hijack, and well, let's just say this hand gets out of control. This is the last hand of the night, and Blez 3-bets to $17,650, a very oddly specific number, and Randy finds himself in a weird spot where he has king-queen. He decides to call it off, and let's just run out the cards for everyone to see in real time.
Spot indeed, all things considered, as it comes to 8-5
one more card.
deuce.
Oh my god, hold on.
And it's a 4 on the turn.
Oh, it's a 3 across.
We know it's a 2-way straight draw.
Oh shit. Fuck.
Phil's gonna find out that Blez's ace king holds.
So yeah, hand number 98 ends up being the biggest one, a 37.8k pot, 3 ways between Blez, 3 coin, and Hellmuth. Well, Hellmuth only contributed less than 3k of that, but Blez is taking down 20k in profit, the last hand of the night. I ended up playing a respectable 31% of my hands, and for anyone who's saying that's way too tight, let's just keep in mind the $100 and $200 straddle were on the entire night. So I'd like to see you guys play 100, 200 before you complain about 31%. But look towards the bottom there. 15% makes a lot of sense, but Phil, you got to teach your son how to play more hands there. 20% is definitely not going to cut it. I had a super fun 2 days here at Champions in Houston, Texas. The first night I won $20,175. Followed that up here with a profit of $14,000 in this session, so nearly $35,000 in 2 days of play. It was an absolutely surreal experience. A lot of drinks, a lot of gambling, a lot of legends at the table. Super fun and awesome to break some cards with Blez as well. Phil Hellmuth giving me those amazing iconic clips, nagging on my loose play, made up for all the negative EV that I might have lost in the long run there. And let's just say, Phil, it was an awesome experience playing with you as well. If you guys like this video, a full circle moment for your boy Wolfgang here, please consider subscribing. A lot more cool content coming your way. I've games all across the US coming up, followed by EPT Barcelona, a few vlogs there from a main event run. And yeah, the content is getting better and better. Hit the subscribe button if you're new, leave a like and a comment down below. Good luck on the felt, and as always, I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.